UFC Fight Night Vegas 78, Luque versus Dos Anjos just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Luana Santos versus Julianna Miller. Now, before I even get into this fight, I want to say I went 12-1 on this card. I did very good, and I picked some underdogs as well, but I didn't get that Swanson Dawodu fight that we're going to talk about as well. But let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Luana Santos versus Julianna Miller. Julianna Miller is absolutely awful at fighting. It's an absolute embarrassment to Ultimate Fighter, the fact that she is now a tough winner in UFC history. Absolutely embarrassing talent-wise. Has no idea what she's doing on the feet. She did come out aggressive, which I do respect her for, but she was just getting tagged up by Luana Santos. Got rocked against a cage a few times, and the last time it happened, it was just a bit too much, and she was just standing there drunkenly whilst Santos teed off on her with combinations against a cage, not throwing anything back. She was tough a little bit, Julianna Miller. She was game. She tried to win, but it's just there's no talent there. There's no skill there. Luana Santos wins, of course. We move on to another fight that took place up the card, which was Blackshear versus Jose Johnson. Oh my word. Blackshear gets a twister submission finish over Jose Johnson. Crazy. I did not expect this to happen. I just tuned into the card for this fight to happen. I was watching it live as I was just preparing all my stream and setting everything up. And as soon as I started to stream, this guy's working towards a twister position on Jose Johnson after getting a couple takedowns that Jose Johnson got back up from, stuffed, but eventually he was able to settle on top. And Jose Johnson was throwing like little elbows from the awkward position that they were in, where basically Blackshear had one leg tied up and the rest of the body sort of diagonal laying alongside Jose Johnson. And as he went for an elbow, he ended up throwing that elbow a little bit too far and getting himself tangled up in that twister position. He needed to keep himself safe, tucked up, fighting anything that could be coming his way. But when he threw that elbow, he gave the all clear for Blackshear to get his head over the top of it and start cranking that twist on the twister. And he gets a twister submission over Jose Johnson. And Blackshear, although I think he's coming off a loss to Farid Basharat. No, he's on a 2-fight win streak. He's had 2 finishes in a row, and this one is by twister submission, so definitely a 50k bonus. Amazing submission from him. He's one of the few in UFC history that can now say that they have that. The Korean zombie Bryce Mitchell and Blackshear. Crazy. We move on. Up the card, Jaqueline Amorim versus Montserrat Ruiz. I went with Jaqueline Amorim. I thought this was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. She went out there, she got her takedowns, and when she did get her takedowns, Montserrat Ruiz just didn't get back up. Round 3, Montserrat turned it around a little bit at the end, but it was just too little too late, and Jaqueline Amorim had already won, and had a bunch of submission attempts early in that fight as well. Not much going on the feet. Couple shots here and there that landed, but it was mainly in the clinch and in the takedowns where Jaqueline Amorim did her best work. She actually reversed a takedown from Montserrat Ruiz in round 2 and ended up on top for the rest of that round, doing some damage, getting full mount. I mean, I had it like, if this went to a decision, I reckon this would have been like a 10-8, 10-8, maybe another 10-8. You know what I mean? Because she was taking a beating in that 3rd round as well. But eventually, no, I'm remembering this fight wrong. Jaqueline Amorim gets to finish by TKO. She reverses the position in the 3rd round, ends up on top, goes straight to mount, and you could see it was just like Ruiz was like, oh, for God's sake. I had top position, you've taken it from me, I'll just shell up, you can get this TKO win. She just sort of gave up trying to even try and win against Amorim, and Amorim started landing those shots. Now, I will say, I've never seen a fighter with less finishing potential. I know it's crazy because she did get a finish, but it's just absolutely ridiculous to me to see her latch up an armbar, have a rear naked choke in and done, and still not just have the squeeze to finish that. And she did the same thing to Sam Hughes, if I'm not mistaken. I think in the 1st round, she had a rear naked choke locked in a few times, and she just couldn't finish the rear naked choke and ended up losing by decision. She needs to do some muscle building a bit, like squeeze and choke someone out. That should be a basic level requirement of strength in MMA. But either way, good performance from her. She dominated. Good win. We move on to another fight up the card, which was Martin Buday versus Josh Parisian. I picked Martin Buday. I was actually swept the prelims here. I picked Martin Buday to win. I swept the whole card, if not for the Dawodu Swanson fight, but whatever. Buday wins by TKO, gets a Kimura. No, it wasn't a TKO, but it was an ongoing TKO that led to a Kimura from side control. So really good win from Martin Buday. Josh Parisian was throwing some goofy stuff early on, a couple leg kicks that Buday was actually doing a pretty decent job of checking on those leg kicks as well. So good for him there. But he threw a couple of good shots, couple good leg kicks here and there, couple spinning attacks just to keep Buday a little bit honest with himself as he was trying to crash forward, but eventually Buday's pressure got too much, and he started to really, I've got this weird quiff here on the side, either way. He started to really push and force down Josh Parisian with big shots, cracked him a few times on the feet, had him covered up, couldn't really get the finish. I was worried for a second that he was going to gas himself out going for a finish, but eventually he got the takedown and got himself that side control Kimura. So very good job from Martin Buday, and yeah, Josh Parisian's got to get cut from the UFC, and Tom Segura, Martin Buday, he needs to get an actual decent opponent, so maybe Arlovski might be the move to actually give him a tricky guy who's actually good, which is crazy to say because we're in the UFC. We move on. Francis Marshall versus Isaac Dulgarian. People calling me dumb. I told you Isaac Dulgarian was going to win as an underdog, okay? He's just much better than Francis Marshall. And if you watched Francis Marshall's last fight against William Gomez, you knew this was going to go this way. Because Isaac Dulgarian is a legit prospect. Great wrestling, great grappling, good stand-up as well, dangerous in all areas, high finishing potential, never left the first round, still hasn't left the first round. He gets a first-round TKO win over Francis Marshall, and I think it was the cut that he opened up on Francis that really led to the TKO win, because he was sort of stuck in a stalemate of half guard on top or full guard on top where he wasn't really doing too much, and it was looking a bit dull in the early part of the round. But then he elbowed Marshall and cut open his ear. Then he elbowed him again and cut him open right above the eye. And you could see as soon as that cut started to leak in the eye of Francis Marshall, Dulgarian was like, right, he's bothered by it. Mount, boom, 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 started getting the finishing sequence going. Great TKO win from Isaac Dulgarian. And Francis Marshall, dude, lost a ton of hype. He's going to need to regather himself and get a win because we got a new guy to watch out for in Isaac Dulgarian. We move on to another fight up the card, which is Terrance McKinney versus Mike Breeden. Now, congratulations to Terrance McKinney. Amazing win. TKO in the first round. What was Mike Breeden doing out there? Like, I knew that Terrance McKinney was going to win. I was worried there was like a chance of an upset, of course, because you never know with Terrance McKinney. If the guy survived the first round, he might have gassed out and lost anyway. Either way, great win from Terrance McKinney. Really good first round TKO. He got the job done and looked great. Really good. But, you know what I'm saying? What was Mike Breeden doing out there? Barely threw anything back with conviction. I think he threw a couple of leg kicks early on. It says he threw 5 strikes. I didn't see one of them. You know what I mean? So maybe I need to go back and rewatch the fight. But as far as I'm aware, he just sort of shelled up and took a beating off Terrance McKinney. Now, I do think he got hurt to the body early on, which maybe made him shut down a little bit quicker than maybe he would have done against the cage when Terrance was actually going for him. But other than a couple of responding shots whenever he was getting swarmed on, you know, he threw 5 shots. All of them were to the body at range. Or in the clinch with like a knee to the body. What are we doing, dude? Obviously, Terrance McKinney beats him. He shelled up. And just didn't want to be there, it seemed. So, really good job from Terrance McKinney. He's back in the win column. Good for him. But come on, Mike Breeden. You're in the UFC, lad. Put up a bit of something. We move on. JP Buys versus Marcus McGhee. I went with Marcus McGhee, of course. I went with him by TKO, of course. And he won by TKO, of course. What is JP Buys doing? What is JP Buys doing? I made that noise to cover my fart. What is JP Buys doing? That's disgusting. What is JP Buys doing? Why are you fighting Marcus McGhee? A dangerous, finishing ability having, bantamweight prospect who's big, strong, in his prime, coming off a big KO win, I'm pretty sure. Why are you taking this fight against him, JP Buys? You're not a bantamweight. You're a flyweight. I don't care if you've bulked up and you've got strong legs now and now you're saying I'm 180 pounds. No, dude. Accept being the midget you are. I think go back down to flyweight, dude. No, there's no chance. He's gone. He's gone from the UFC. That's it. It's 4 in a row. They can't keep him around out of pity. Sad to see. Both guys weren't doing much of anything, and then Marcus McGhee times him with a straight left, right on the chin. Down goes JP Buys. Pretty crazy, But that's what it is. Good job, Marcus McGhee by KO. Kind of all saw that one coming, though. We move on to the main card, which got exponentially worse than the prelims. The prelims were amazing. Twister finish, bunch of KOs. Lost breath there. Bunch of finishes, amazing stuff. Main card, Josh Fremd versus Jamie Pickett. Such a dull fight. Now, Josh Fremd clearly won this fight, of course. But Jamie Pickett, you're fighting for your career, man. What are we doing up against a cage? First of all, his corner team did let him down. He clearly lost round 1 to Josh Fremd. He clearly lost round 2. At the end of round 2, they said it was 1-1. We got to get this third round. I'm thinking Jamie Pickett needs to KO Josh Fremd. He needs to get a finish here. But Fremd just wins. He landed body kicks at range. Pickett landed a few kicks at range as well to the legs. Started to try with a couple punches that didn't really land. And Josh Fremd was just landing a bunch of body kicks at range. Bunch of shots as he came rushing in. And then he would rush in and settle in the clinch. And in the first round, he didn't really get anything from the clinch. But in the second round, he started to get a few takedowns from it. Get some positional control. Pickett actually would get a takedown. And Josh Fremd would sort of like reverse it and end up on top position. Or just have a better scramble and win the 50-50s. And I even called at one point a moment where it was going to switch to where Josh Fremd would end up on top because Jamie Pickett was just leaving himself off balance. When you're in a 50-50 scramble like that, you want to be the guy with structural integrity and you want to be the guy who's higher up than your opponent so you can always end up on top in the scramble. Pickett was like hanging off the top of Fremd. It looked like at one point he was going for an arm-in guillotine and it just failed on him. So Josh Fremd wins. Good job to him. He had a close guillotine in round 2 as well that gave him that round. Not much else to talk about in that fight, though. We move on. Up the card to another fight that was AJ Dobson versus Tafon Nchukwi. I went with AJ Dobson. Trying to think back on the fight. Yes. AJ Dobson won, in my opinion. I thought he got the first and the third round, if I'm not mistaken. But I gave the second round to Tafon Nchukwi. Round 1... I actually had Tafon and Nchukwi winning that round. It was very tit for tat. Both guys throwing kicks at range, teeps to the body, both guys going for leg kicks. But it was Tafon and Nchukwi who was winning at the leg kick battle. So I was like, okay, not much has happened this round. Dobson landed some punches, but Tafon Nchukwi has been chewing up his leg. So I'm going to go with Tafon Nchukwi in round 1. Last few seconds of round 1, Dobson gets an explosive takedown, starts throwing some big ground and pound towards the end of the round. So I was like, okay, Dobson gets round 1. Round 2, similar situation, but this time Tafon Nchukwi was landing a few more punches to the head, more than he usually was in round 1. And he was also still chopping at that leg. Now, Dobson was doing the same, chopping at the leg, trying a takedown that wasn't really successful. And Tafon Nchukwi's a real strong dude for stuffing some of those takedowns. Gyno out the wazoo. I don't know what was going on with them nips. They were drooping. He could do kick-ups with him. You know what I mean? AJ Dobson wins the first and the third, gets the takedown in the third, and that's all she wrote. Basically controls Tafon Nchukwi until the end of the round. Good job, AJ Dobson, to keep his career and the loss of the career of Tafon Nchukwi, I guess. We move on to another fight up the card, which is Iasmin Lucindo versus Polyana Viana. I went with Iasmin Lucindo. Polyana Viana got rocked in the first round. I was confused because Iasmin Lucindo was rocking Polyana Viana on the feet and then not doing anything about it. And it was really shocking to me because she rocked her in the first round a little bit. Then she rocked her quite badly in the second round and then just stared at her because it was almost like, oh, hang on, it's women's MMA. I can't make it exciting. You know what I mean? So she didn't want to risk making it exciting. So she didn't get to. And eventually she did get a submission via arm triangle on the ground and eventually latched it up. And you could see that Polyana Viana was kind of not liking it in there anymore. She'd been rocked a few times. She's been hit hard a few times. Stand up, absolutely appalling. She did end up getting a takedown in round 1, but she didn't do anything with it. And then Iasmin Lucindo worked her way back up, got her own takedown, ended up on top, did some stuff with it. So I thought that the first round should go to her. Plus she rocked Polyana Viana on the feet. And then Iasmin latched up the arm triangle in round 2. What more is there to say? Moving on. Up the card to another fight, which was Khalil Rountree versus Chris Daukaus. Not much to say here. Kind of saw this one coming, to be honest with you guys. Chris Daukaus just got KO'd by Derek Lewis. Curtis, I'm not naming them because of the shade of them. Just saying they're big power punches that KO'd him. Derek Lewis, Jairzinho Rosenstruik, Curtis Blades, KO, KO, KO. I know what I'll do. I'll move down to light heavyweight and fight Khalil Rountree Jr.? Who's making these decisions for Chris Daukaus? Of course he gets KO'd in round 1. He did actually land a few decent shots immediately in the first minute, but you could see after that Khalil Rountree was like, okay, he's got power, but it's not crazy. I'll start going for my own shots now. And eventually he started going for his own shots. Landed a massive straight left, right down the pipe, on the chin of Chris Daukaus. Knocked him backwards and hurt him. Actually stung Daukaus a few times before that, but Daukaus took it well. But that last shot he did not take well, so Daukaus takes another L by KO and Khalil Rountree wins. Good for Khalil Rountree. Nice and easy win for him. Probably going to get a performance bonus. They haven't said who they're giving the performance bonuses to yet. I'll probably decide that on my own at the end of this anyway, and then we'll see who they give them to. But really good stuff. So yeah, really good win from Khalil Rountree. We move on up the card. Cub Swanson versus Akeem Dawodu. Now, this is weird for me because watching it live, everyone kind of had it first round to Dawodu, but close. Third round to Swanson, but Dawodu did do good in the third round, but it just seemed like Swanson was getting to him by the end of it, landing big shots. He got a takedown at the end of that round as well and stayed on top. But the problem with it is that people are having is round 2, I guess. Or maybe round 2 isn't the sway round. Maybe that's just a clear Swanson round. I don't know. I need to rewatch this fight clearly because people are saying extreme robbery. And I do give round 1 to Dawodu. And I guess round 3 can be Dawodu's if I go back and watch it again. I'll have to check it again. But I feel like people had round 3 for Swanson, right? So I think people are expecting this, let me know if I'm wrong, to be 2-1 Dawodu based on the first and second round. Dawodu did outstrike Swanson in round 2. But he did get wobbled at the end of round 2. No matter how much he held Swanson against the cage, he got wobbled at the end of round 2. So there were moments that as much as Dawodu can argue about being robbed, and I can argue as well, if I got this fight right and Dawodu won, I swept the card. Clean sweep with 3 underdogs on the card as well. I would have clean swept the card if Dawodu got this decision. I'd be biased if I wanted to, you know what I mean? But I don't know. It's a closer fight than people think. And in round 1, Cub rocked him with a right hand straight away. And then rocked him at the end of round 2 as well. It was like the visuals of Dawodu's chin letting him down were kind of swaying it towards Swanson's way. But I do think Dawodu did outstrike him in that fight. So it's a weird one where it's going to be like there's this one moment here and one moment here for Swanson. But overall, Dawodu was winning. So it's going to be one of those weird ones. The weird thing to me was that it was unanimous to Swanson. That was the weird part. I thought we were going to see a split decision for sure. If we're seeing split decisions for Sandhagen versus Vera, how are we not seeing a split decision for Swanson Dawodu? You know what I mean? That's crazy to me. We move on to the main event. Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. You know what? Not the most exciting main event. I'll be real with you. Not the most exciting main event. I had it 3-2 Luque. I had the first and the 5th round to RDA. I think that was pretty clear. But round 1, people were saying could have been either way. So maybe I'm wrong on that. I just thought RDA landed some of the better shots in round 1 with some body kicks and stuff like that. But he landed an elbow on the break from the clinch. That type of stuff. But round 2, I had Luque. Round 3, I had Luque. Round 4, I had Luque. Round 4 was close. Round 3 was close. No. 2 and 3, I think, were clear Luque. So as soon as I heard 4-1, I was like, oh, Luque's got it. You know what I mean? Round 4 was pretty competitive, though. But Luque did more. Got the takedowns as well. 8 compared to 2 on takedowns. 12 minutes of control compared to 3. And in these types of fights where it's so close on damage, you do have to kind of look at control and who's getting the takedowns and who's winning in the clinch. Because it's not only who's winning in the clinch. It was the RDA was forcing this fight on Luque. Whereas I think RDA might have been better at range. Now, of course, we could say that in hindsight, and maybe at range, if RDA stayed there, Luque would just sleep him. You never know. But I feel like RDA was doing all right at range. I would have loved to have seen him try and mix it up on the feet a bit more and have some more confidence. Maybe shoot out in the open a bit more instead. But he kept trying to push Luque up against the cage. And towards the end of round 1, it was very obvious. To be honest, Luque can even win round 1, right? But it was just the RDA pulled a guillotine that was kind of good. So I was like, we'll see. But either way, it was just, as soon as round 1 happened, it was like, oh, Luque's stronger than him in the clinch. And that was, as soon as that happened, I clocked on. Oh, Luque's stronger than him. I feel like Luque thinks he's stronger than him, chat. What do you think? So anytime RDA pushed him up against the cage, Luque would get the underhook, stuff the takedown, turn around the clinch, knee the thigh. You know what I mean? It was just like routine. Why is RDA doing this to himself? He's forcing himself into a style of fight that he's losing right now. And although it wasn't the most exciting, I'm glad that Luque won. So good for him. Good job, RDA, still showing up against a Luque who's in his prime, although not the best version of Luque, let's be real. RDA still doing his thing at his old age, not taking too much damage. So good for him. But Luque wins. Very good win. And I want to say, yeah, ratings for Luque, and congratulations to Luque. I'm burping throughout this. I hope he respects that. Congratulations to Luque for getting through a brain hemorrhage. We talk about ACLs, broken hands, this, that. We don't talk about brain hemorrhages. Luque got KO'd badly by Jeff Neal, and his brain literally hemorrhaged, and he nearly fucking died. Artery in his brain overflowed, whatever it was. Craziness. He should never have been fighting again. Let's be real. I say that a lot these days, I know, but come on. Oh, sorry, you had a brain hemorrhage in your last fight and nearly died? Yeah, you're not fighting in the UFC again, dude. In fact, you're not taking any physical contact for the rest of your life. Dude's back in the UFC, back in a main event against Rafael dos Anjos. Not a schmuck. He's not getting dealt up like, oh, here's Tim Means for your comeback fight. No. It's Rafael dos Anjos. No, here's Neil Magny. No, it's Rafael dos Anjos. He's a solid level UFC welterweight, solid level UFC lightweight as well. Remember, had an equally close fight with Fiziev, except Fiziev KO'd him in the 5th. So if this was like, if Luque KO'd dos Anjos in the 5th, it'd be almost exactly the same as the Fiziev fight, except Luque wrestling a bit more, whereas Fiziev was entirely defensive. But either way, RDA can still hang with the top. Credit to him, but Luque to bring it back a year after having a brain hemorrhage, admirable. Pulls it off as the underdog in the main event. I picked him to win as well as an underdog. I'm glad I did. He gets it done. Good for him. I wasn't expecting a great performance, but I still think he would have been able to win, and that's what he did. So good for Luque. Shake off the cobwebs. Have your confidence back because you just had a brain hemorrhage and you're back in a UFC fight. Imagine that, dude. All these other fighters are like, oh, I hope I don't get KO'd because I might lose half my money. I might slip down the rankings. Oh, no. Luque's like, oh, cool, dude. If I get KO'd, I might die tonight, okay? So there's a different level of fear that he must have had in that cage. Really good win from Luque. Not the most entertaining, but I'll take it, dude. You know what I mean? Sandhagen font was so bad, I'll just take it. So Luque wins. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I should have swept the whole card if Dawodu got that decision. So it's tough on Dawodu, but hey, Dawodu, stop making it so close, dude. You know what I mean? Real tough for Dawodu. So yeah. I got Santos, I got Blackshear, I got Amorim, I got Buday, I got Dulgarian as an underdog, I got McKinney by finish, I got McGhee by finish, I got Fremd, I got Dobson, I got Lucindo, I got Rountree, I got Dobson as an underdog as well, I got Rountree by KO, I got everything right. If I just got Dawodu by decision, I would have swept the whole card. And I got Luque as an underdog as well. Oh well. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. It wasn't meant to be. Toodle Pip. Goodbye.